Good day, everyone. I'm Kathrina Tokmo, your reporter for today. Today, I will be discussing to you the consumer culture and the material self. So, when we say consumer culture, it is a form of material culture facilitated by the market which thus created a particular relationship between the consumer and the goods or services he or she consumed.
Denotation and connotation. Denotation is defined as the literal interpretation of something, while connotation pertains to culture-specific meaning and ideologies attached to it for purposes of myth-making. Roland Barthes observed that advertisers strive to peddle to the public not just consumer goods, but also the ideologies and mystification that seems to permit them. In doing so habitually and for long periods of time, the connotations become the natural common sense reality of the products. It simply means that denotation is the literal meaning, while connotation is the specific or indirect meaning of something. For example, Fernando Poe Jr., denotative meaning, Filipino actor and director who once ran for president. Connotative meaning, idol of the masses and champion of the poor, physically embodiment of righteousness and justice. Example 2. Red. The denotative is color and the connotative is love. Entourage and relay. In his book, The Rhetoric of the Image, Roland Barthes wrote of two kinds of relationship between text and image, the entourage and relay. By definition, entourage underlines the importance of the text in making sense of an image, which means that entourage is the text itself that guides the reader's interpretation of the image or icon, while relay puts emphasis on a more complementary relationship between the two. Relay where the text and symbols or image work side by side, which means that the word and pictures tell a story equally. It is not the words giving the picture a meaning. The words are working alongside the story which the picture is telling. According to Philip Cutler, there are 5 stages in the so-called buyer decision process. First, the need recognition. Need recognition is the first step in consumers' buying behavior and is also called problem identification. It occurs when a consumer discovers an unmet need that must be fulfilled. The second is information search. After recognizing the need, the prospective consumer may seek information to help identification and evaluation alternative products that will meet that need. Third one is the evaluation of alternatives. As a consumer finds and processes information about the problem she is trying to solve, consumer identifies the alternative product that are valuable option. The fourth one is the purchase decision. After much searching and evaluating, consumer at some point have to decide whether they are going to buy. The last one is the post-purchase behavior. Post-purchase behavior is the feeling or feedback towards the decision that the consumers made. The Calvinist principle. Calvin is firmly behind the belief that consumption and wealth accumulation are divine acts. He specified that this must only be done in moderation to avoid the extremes of either complete material abstinence or excess. One must play it right down the middle. He also added that a person's hard work justifies his or her consumption. Thus, the rich are assumed to be the industrious lot whose wealth is willed by God. Naturally, the same logic applies to the opposite. The poor do not work as hard, so their social status and eventually deprivation of the divine benefits is believed to be
righteously meted out. Calvin's principles says that people can fulfill God's will through both hard work and material consumption. The Marxist perspective. The Marxist thought, however, has positioned consumer culture within the complex entanglement of the capitalist economic model. If some academic disciplines consider consciousness as the factor that determines society, Karl Marx suggests the opposite. It is society that determines consciousness. More specifically, the economic imperative dictate how we think or decide. The material life, with its mode of production, defines the process of the self, social, political, or spiritual. Marxist perspective consumption is momentary escape from imposed labor in a capitalist society, often resulting in alienation. Commodity fetishism. A cornerstone of ways capitalist societies have over people's material selves, at least from Marx's viewpoint, is what anthropology refers to a fetishism. Rather, primitive beliefs that in an animate object can be imbued with God-like powers. In this context, this can pertain to how certain goods are given high monetary value with no regard for the labor that went into its creation, thus effectively becoming but fetishized commodities stripped of their human essence. The danger here is that many people might then view said products as if they harbor an intrinsic value in and of themselves even without human agency. As Mark explains, the commodity remains simple as long as it is tied to its use value. Alienation labor in capitalist societies is often imposed and non-voluntary, hence why most employees avoid it like the plague when outside work premises. Under such conditions, individuals work to afford gratifying commodities, but never for its own sake. Thus, work becomes completely separate from the individual as it contains the little to no need satisfying value. This therefore leads to worker apathy and eventually to alienation from one's labor.
Alienation is a transformation of people's own labor into a power which rules them as if by a kind of natural suprahuman law.